Well, guys, I pulled the trigger, but a zero tolerance. And it might be my last, to be honest. So we're going to talk about this. This is the 770. This is actually the old version of the knife that has the aluminum handle scales. The newest version has carbon fiber. And I bought it because it ended up being on sale for like $114 or so. And it just at that price, I was kind of like, I'm gonna pull the trigger, get one. I want to see, are they worth the money? Are zero tolerance as good as they say? So we're going to talk about the knife, talk about my experience with it and the feel, and we'll let you guys be the judge. So let's zoom out here. So what is this guy? Let me move this other knife next on the review list. It's a spring assisted, about 3.5-inch blade, made of Elmax steel, which is kind of a new super steel, which many people thought and have said is going to be kind of like the end all of steels, and it was expected to be just this great all-around steel that does everything. And I believe it's made in Germany too. And well, it's had some bumps along the road, let's just say that. So let's take a look at this guy. What we have is tip-up carry with a nice deep pocket clip. These zero tolerance clips I actually like. I like that they're small, unobtrusive, you don't really notice them, and it is a deep carry. It is reversible for right and left hand carry. You have a liner lock. Oops, let's get on frame here, guys. You have a liner lock embedded into the aluminum scale. You are going to need torque spit there if you want to adjust the pivot, but I don't think you're going to have to. You have the stonewashed Elmax. Now, I really like stonewash. A lot of people don't. A lot of people hate it. I'm not one of those guys. I think it looks really nice. Yeah, it does open the knife up to corrosion, but I do like it. So, complaints. Well, the edge, the secondary grind, wasn't the best on earth when I got it. It was sharp. It was hair shaving sharp. And you're not going to be able to see it on this. I probably would need a loop or something for you guys to be able to see it. But you could see, that there was several spots where it just was ground differently. And that was fine. It's not the end of the world. That will sharpen out. No big deal. So I didn't really care about that. Anytime you have a knife where people are doing them by hand, you got to expect some variation to them. It's not the end of the world. So I noticed that right off the bat. And then number two, the screws actually are raised a little bit, and they got some sharp edges to them. I think it's where the torques come in, so they're actually a little rough on the hands. When you're holding this, it's actually, the screws are a little rough on your hand, and when you're using it heavily, they do tend to bite a little bit. And I know, once again, that's something that'll wear over time, but you can hear how they catch my nail. Because there is that weird edge to them there. But yeah, I mean, it's a nice knife. It's a really nice design. But the issues I have is, number one, it's a little difficult to sharpen because you have to sharpen it piecemeal because there is such a distinct belly to the blade and almost a hair of recurve back here. So when you're sharpening it, you really kind of need to sharpen this section, that section, and that section, because you really can't get it all in one swoop without being at least hand sharpening. It's very difficult to get the entire part of the blade. So what I found was kind of doing one piece, doing another piece, doing a third piece. Sharpening was very tedious with this knife because of the blade shape, which that's fine. I understand like 80% of people aren't even going to sharpen their knives anyway, so is it the end of the world? No, So let's get on to the Elmax steel. Now, if you follow forums, you're going to read a lot of controversy about this steel and zero tolerance. So basically what happened is when zero tolerance decided to start making the Elmax, there was a couple of people who said that it wasn't very good quality, that the heat treat was wrong, or maybe they burned the edge, by sharpening it about, that maybe the edge got too hot, that it kind of hurt the heat treat a little bit. So some people went out and did some videos, and you can look these up, on your own. And what they found is the performance of the Elmax was actually really bad. That it was dulling way before knives that are even like S30 steel. And of course, huge amount of controversy ensued because a lot of people said it was fake, the results are faked, and you're just trying to knock down the knives. And that's part of the problem is whenever you have an expensive item, people are always going to be offended if there's a problem with it. Because if you spend a lot of money on a knife, say you spend $150 and you get home and you find out that like there's something wrong, it upsets you, even though like I don't know, it's just some weird consumer thing we Americans do. So of course there was a huge debate about it, and zero tolerance is pretty much like, nope, our steel's fine, and never really did anything. And it kind of made it worse because they wouldn't even acknowledge that it was an issue. So there was a big series of videos where people put it to the test, and they actually found that the edge holding capability was pretty bad. And they believed, and people believed, that it was a result of the edge being overheated during sharpening, and that once you sharpen the knife a handful of times, that will go away, and you'll have the really good steel underneath. So I put this knife to the test. I did my linear cardboard test. So I cut cardboard into 1 foot sections and wanted to see how many linear slices I could make, how many 1 foot slices I could make before this dulled. So I let this thing dull up. I sharpened it back to hair shaving sharp again. Hair shaving, cuts newspaper, all that stuff. Got it right to that level. Went after the cardboard. Some of the worst knives I have only could survive 20 linear feet. The best knives I have could survive about 75 linear feet before they lose that ability to slice paper and cut hair. And that was what I considered my end point, was when they lost that ability to cut paper, to cleanly slice paper. So this knife actually only put out about 40 linear feet, but it was still performing, and then by 50 it was completely gone. So it was a little disappointing because actually I got 40 linear feet out of a Spyderco Tenacious. I got 70 linear feet out of a Spyderco Endura in VG10. I got better results out of my Kershaw Link, which is a very identical knife using 420 HC, the high carbon 420 that Buck kind of made famous. That Link actually got 50 linear feet and could have went a little bit further if I really, wanted to be dishonest. But what I found was that some of my $30 and $40 knives actually were able to cut more linear feet of cardboard than this. So I did that test a couple of times and resharpened, and the Elmax guys, it seemed to sharpen pretty easy, which kind of scared me, because with any of the high-end stainless, they're supposed to be difficult to sharpen, and the edge went back on this really quickly. It didn't take a lot of work at all, and so I think it's been through 3 cycles of sharpening, and I'm not seeing an improvement. I'm still getting around that 40, 50 linear feet of cardboard. So overall, guys, what I have is the knife, the most expensive knife on my table. I spent more money on this than any other knife. And performance-wise, it performs on par with my $30 and $40 knife. So it's a bit of a disappointment, I gotta say. Now, is that to be expected of every zero tolerance? No, because not every zero tolerance is made of Elmax steel. But, it was disappointing to read in the forums that they just never acknowledged it to be a problem. They refused to admit it. So, it kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. I kind of was hoping this thing would be really good and I get caught up in zero tolerances and that I would be a future fanboy, but it just didn't end up being. But overall, guys, it's a nice knife. It's got a smooth deployment, nice lockup. The build quality seems decent, nothing crazy there. Fit and finish seems pretty good, except for these kind of edges on these screws. But yeah, just having a little trouble swallowing the fact that the Spyderco Tenacious can cut more linear feet without losing its hair shaving edge. And I know that a lot of that has to do with edge geometry and all that, But the Spyderco Link is damn near identical to this knife, and with an inferior steel, it was able to cut 10 more linear feet. So, I gotta say, a little disappointed, but would I buy Zero Tolerance again? Maybe, but I will not buy another Elmax again. I really think that this steel was oversold, overhyped, and just not worth the money.